She begged a stranger to save her mom, not knowing he was a millionaire who would change everything. "Sir, please help my mom." The desperate cry pierced through the light afternoon drizzle in downtown Austin, Texas. A little girl, no older than 8, her face streaked with tears and rain, clung to the sleeve of a man who had just stepped out of a tall glass building nearby. Startled, the man turned. The girl was trembling, trying to drag him toward a woman lying motionless on the wet sidewalk. "My mom. She's not breathing right," she sobbed, her eyes wide with panic. Miguel Cole followed her gaze. On the cold concrete, a woman lay on her side, her work clothes wrinkled and stained, her face pale and lifeless. People kept walking past them, avoiding the scene like it was invisible. He didn't hesitate. Miguel knelt beside the woman, checking her breathing and pulse. Weak, but there. He pulled out his phone and called 911. "Hang in there," he murmured to the girl, phone still to his ear. "An ambulance is on its way." "Thank you, sir," the girl whispered. Her small hand still clutched his sleeve, afraid to let go. "What's your name?" Miguel asked once he finished the call. "I'm Lily Rivera. That's my mom, Elena. It's just us." Miguel crouched and removed his jacket, gently covering Elena's body to keep her warm. A strange feeling stirred in his chest, a pull he couldn't explain. Just moments ago, he had been waiting for his car after a business meeting. Now this little girl's voice had shifted his entire world. Elena let out a faint groan. Her eyes fluttered open briefly, blurry and confused, meeting the gaze of a stranger kneeling beside her. Who are you?" she murmured weakly. "I'm Miguel. Your daughter called me for help. The ambulance is almost here." I don't have money." Elena tried to sit up but collapsed back in exhaustion. "Don't worry about that right now. Just focus on feeling better." Miguel supported her gently, concern deepening in his eyes. The sound of sirens pierced the air. Moments later, paramedics arrived, swiftly checking Elena's vitals and lifting her onto a stretcher. "I'm coming with you," Miguel said, then turned to Lily. "You're coming too, okay?" Lily nodded silently, her eyes full of trust, as if she already believed this man was their only lifeline in the world. Inside the ambulance, Miguel held the girl's hand tightly, his mind spinning with a single haunting thought. What kind of world teaches a child to beg strangers to save their mother? He had no answer, but in that moment, Miguel knew one thing with absolute certainty. His life would never be the same again. On the way, Lily talked about her mother, a woman who worked 3 jobs, cleaning offices at dawn, working at a clinic during the day, and caring for the elderly at night. "My mom has never had enough sleep," the little girl said, with a maturity far beyond her 8 years. "She always says she's fine, but I know she's really tired." Elena woke up in the emergency room at St. David's Hospital. The fluorescent lights above stung her eyes. The beeping monitors around her slowly pulled her back from a fog of exhaustion. Her body felt unbearably heavy, like all the weariness she'd ignored for months had finally collapsed at once. Beside the bed, Lily sat curled on a chair, still wearing her damp clothes. Across from her, the man she vaguely remembered from the street sat quietly with his hands clasped together. Elena tried to sit up, but dizziness swept over her. "Don't push yourself," his voice came gently. "You're still very weak." "Who are you?" she rasped. "Miguel Cole. Your daughter called for help on the street. I just did what anyone should." Elena turned her eyes toward Lily, who had just stirred awake. She jumped up and rushed to the bedside. "Mom, are you okay? I was so scared." Elena forced a weak smile and stroked her daughter's damp hair. "I'm okay now, sweetheart." A few minutes later, a doctor entered. He explained that Elena was suffering from severe anemia and physical exhaustion. She needed light transfusions, nutritional support, and several days of rest. She'll need to stay at least 2 to 3 days, the doctor said. She's stable now, but if she keeps living this way, things could get worse. Elena looked at Lily. The girl's eyes carried every burden she had tried to hide. She turned away, ashamed. "We don't have good insurance. I can't stay," she whispered. Miguel sat up straighter. "I'll take care of the hospital bill. Please don't worry about that." "No, I can't accept money from a stranger," Elena said firmly, a flicker of pride in her voice. Lily tugged at her mother's hand. "Mom, he's really nice. He's not like those rich people on TV." Miguel smiled. "I don't want anything. I just want to help where I can." Elena studied him, still unsure, but there was no pity in his eyes, only a strange kind of sincerity. After a long pause, she gave a faint nod, as if surrendering to reality. A nurse came to wheel Elena into a private room, and Lily followed. Before leaving, the little girl turned back. "Thank you, sir. I think you're kind of like a superhero." Miguel chuckled softly, but a knot formed in his chest, not because of the compliment, but because of the truth behind it. There were far too many people like Elena, and far too few who ever stopped to help. In his mind, a thought began to take shape. Maybe this encounter wasn't an accident after all. 2 days later, Elena was discharged from the hospital. Her body remained weak, but her eyes were clearer, more alert. Miguel came to pick them up in a modest pickup truck. No chauffeur, no flash. "Thank you for everything," Elena said softly as she slid into the passenger seat, her voice still guarded. "It's nothing. Just doing the right thing," Miguel replied, eyes on the road. Lily sat in the back seat, clutching her backpack. "Mr. Miguel, my mom makes amazing soup. You should try it one day." Miguel smiled. "I'd love that." Elena glanced at the rearview mirror, catching the joy on her daughter's face and the gentle look in Miguel's eyes. For a brief moment, she felt something foreign. Peace. A calm she hadn't felt in years. When they arrived at the small apartment in the working-class neighborhood, Miguel helped them carry a few things upstairs. Just as he turned to leave, Elena hesitated at the door. "What do you do for a living?" she asked. "Oh," Miguel scratched the back of his neck. "I run a healthcare tech company. MedBridge." Elena's face froze. "What did you say?" "MedBridge?" he repeated. "I'm the founder." Her grip on the door tightened. A chill ran down her spine. 2 years ago, MedBridge bought and shut down the East Austin pharmaceutical plant, didn't it? Miguel fell silent. His slow nod confirmed it all. "My father worked there." Elena's voice trembled. 20 years, never missed a day. When it closed, he couldn't find another job. He fell into depression and died 6 months later. Miguel looked down, shaken. "I remember. That was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. That plant was bleeding money. If we hadn't shut it down, the entire company would have collapsed." "Of course," Elena snapped. "It's always about the numbers, the strategy. What about the people? What about families like mine?" "You have every right to be angry," Miguel exhaled. "I just never imagined I'd meet his daughter like this." "Well, now you have," she said coldly. "And now I understand why you've been so kind. Guilt can be heavy, can't it?" "It's not guilt," Miguel said quickly. "I truly wanted to help." "Help? Or make peace with yourself?" Elena slammed the door shut. In the tiny kitchen, Lily tiptoed toward her mother. "Mom, what's wrong? Mr. Miguel isn't a bad guy." Elena knelt and pulled her daughter close, tears finally breaking free. "You don't understand, Lily. Some people hurt families like ours and still believe they're doing the right thing." Outside the door, Miguel stood for a long moment, hands loose at his sides, gaze heavy with regret. He didn't know whether to walk away or try to stay. 3 days had passed since Elena had slammed the door in Miguel's face. She tried to fall back into her routine: early morning janitorial shifts at the nursing home, afternoon office cleaning, and night shifts at the diner near her apartment. But the exhaustion wasn't just physical anymore. It was deeper, an ache of thoughts and emotional conflict. Gratitude wrestled with the sting of betrayal. Meanwhile, Lily kept asking, "Mom, why hasn't Mr. Miguel come back?" Elena had no answer, just silence. On Wednesday evening, while wiping tables at the diner, Elena noticed Miguel standing outside the glass window. He wore a plain white shirt and jeans, no tie, no CEO aura. She hesitated, then gave a small nod toward the door. "5 minutes. We talk here." Miguel entered, carrying nothing but that same quiet sincerity. "Thank you for this chance," he began slowly. "I didn't come to justify anything, just to tell you a little about who I am." Elena crossed her arms and leaned against the counter. "I'm listening." "My dad left when I was 10. My mom died of cancer not long after. I lived on the streets for 2 years, sleeping under bridges, eating leftovers. A woman named Ms. Carmen, she owned a small laundry shop, took me in, let me sleep in her attic and go to night school. Because of her, I got a full scholarship to college." Elena didn't interrupt. "My first startup? Failed? The second? Got sued? Medbridge was my last shot, with the little money I had and the faith of 5 friends who believed in me. I've never forgotten the nights I stayed awake, terrified I'd let them down." Miguel's voice was steady, but his eyes drifted into old wounds. "I know, shutting down the East Austin plant hurt a lot of people, but at the time I thought it was the only way." Elena's tone was softer now, no longer sharp. "You know, my dad used to say the same thing, that life is about being practical. But at the end of it, he was just sad." "I'm sorry for what I caused him, and you," Miguel said quietly. "Sorry doesn't change the past." "No," he nodded, "but maybe it can change the way I live going forward." Elena looked at him for a long time. The anger had faded. Forgiveness hadn't come. But something else flickered in her eyes. Uncertainty? Hope? Or just regret? "And Lily?" Miguel asked gently. "She still talks about you, every day." "Would you give me a chance to make things right?" Elena hesitated. "I'm not making any promises. But if you're truly serious about changing, start by not treating us like people you need to save." Miguel nodded. "I won't. I want to become someone your father, Mr. Thomas, wouldn't be ashamed to meet." For the first time, Elena smiled, just a flicker. But it was real. A week after their conversation at the diner, Miguel came to Elena with an unexpected offer. "We're building a new community outreach program at Medbridge," he explained. "I'd like to offer you the role of program director." Elena looked at him like he'd just said something impossible. "I don't know anything about tech. I've never worked in an office." "You know people," Miguel replied, "and you understand what reports never say out loud." Elena hesitated for a long time, but that night, after Lily had fallen asleep, she sat alone and wrote down 3 words: hope, opportunity, freedom. For the first time in years, she wasn't just thinking about survival, she was thinking about change. 3 days later, she accepted. On her first day at the Medbridge office, Elena felt out of place. Expensive suits, polite but distant smiles, polished hallways that reminded her of places she had once cleaned, but never belonged. Miguel introduced her to the executive team. "This is Elena Rivera, who will lead our community outreach initiative. She's not from Harvard or Stanford, but she's from the neighborhoods we're trying to understand." Some people smiled politely, others exchanged skeptical glances. But Elena didn't lower her eyes. At the first meeting, she spoke little. She listened, took notes, watched closely, learned every detail. After a week, she submitted her first proposal. Offer free weekend health checkups, because most working-class people can't afford to miss weekday jobs to see a doctor. The room went silent. That would be expensive, one director objected. Elena's right, Miguel spoke up. We're wasting money on campaigns that don't reach anyone. Let's try her approach. The project was approved. 3 weeks later, attendance quadrupled expectations. Elena walked into the next meeting with a stack of data and a quiet smile in her eyes. Lily changed, too. Every day after school, she ran into the Medbridge office to see her mom. They had lunch on a bench in the courtyard. Miguel often brought sandwiches, chatting with them like a family that had always known each other. One evening, as golden sunlight poured through the glass walls, Miguel sat beside Elena in an empty conference room and said softly, "Thank you for stepping into my world and for letting me step into yours." Elena turned to him, her voice calm. "I'm not making promises, Miguel, but I'm learning how to trust you." And that, though just a whisper, was a beginning. Everything seemed to be settling. Elena was thriving in her role, Lily was laughing more, and Miguel had begun to dream of something he'd never dared before, a family. Until that fateful Friday morning. Elena arrived early at the office to finish a report for the Community Health Project. When she opened her email inbox, she noticed a message from administration. Scholarship account status. Lily Rivera. Her brows furrowed. I never applied for a scholarship for Lily. She clicked. Dear Ms. Elena Rivera, the excellent scholarship of $500 a month for your daughter, Lily Rivera, has been dispersed consistently for the past 3 months. This benefit will continue until Lily completes high school. Elena's hands trembled. 3 months ago. That was right after she met Miguel. She scrambled to check other records. Recent rent, upgraded health insurance. All of it had been improved. All of it under a donor alias. Cole Community Fund? No, it couldn't be. She printed every document, gripping them tightly as she marched to the top floor, Miguel's office. Mr. Cole is in a meeting, the assistant said, trying to stop her. Then end it, Elena said coldly, pushing the door open. Miguel stood at the head of a conference table, mid-presentation to investors. But when he saw her eyes and the stack of papers in her hand, he knew. Excuse me, everyone. I need to postpone this, he said, turning off the screen. Elena? What does this mean, Miguel? She threw the papers onto the table. Scholarship, rent, insurance, all of it was you? He stood still. I only wanted to help. No, you hid it from me, all this time, because I knew you'd say no if I told you. Exactly, Elena shouted, because that was my choice to make. You decided my life, my daughter's life, for us, like we were your charity project. Elena, I love you, Miguel stepped forward. No, don't say love and then do this. That's not love. That's control. Her voice cracked. You know what the worst part is? I started to believe you, started to believe I deserved something good, and then you proved you still see me as someone to be rescued. No, to me you're... What? A way for you to feel like a good man? A redemption arc? Elena stepped back, tears spilling down her cheeks. I don't want to see you again, and I don't want you near Lily. Elena, please, get out, Miguel. She walked out, leaving behind the only man she'd ever given a chance, now standing silent in the very room where he once held the most power. That night, when Lily asked why Mr. Miguel hadn't come for dinner like he usually did, Elena couldn't answer without breaking down in tears. Did you and him have a fight? Lily asked with the sharp intuition only children possess. Something like that, sweetheart. Will he come back? Elena pulled her daughter into her arms, feeling her heart crack as she saw the sadness in Lily's eyes. I don't know, sweetheart. I don't know. But deep inside, Elena knew. This time, there would be no coming back. No easy forgiveness. The wounds were too deep to heal. 3 weeks had passed since the fight. Elena felt like she had been living in a thick fog. She quit Medbridge the very next day, returning to her 3 old jobs, carrying a heavy sense of failure. Mornings were the worst. Lily no longer asked about Miguel, but every time someone knocked on the door, she would look up, hoping to see that familiar face. "Mom, why are you sad?" she asked one night as they ate rice and eggs, the only thing Elena could afford that day. "I'm not sad, sweetheart, just tired." "You used to smile more. Ever since Mr. Miguel stopped coming, you don't smile the same anymore." Elena choked up, unsure how to explain to an 8-year-old the complexity of an adult's heart. "Sometimes adults fight, Lily, and sometimes those fights can't be fixed. Like when Dad left us?" The question hit Elena like a punch to the heart. Lily rarely mentioned her biological father. "No, sweetheart, this time is different." "How is it different?" Elena didn't know how to answer. How could she explain that this time the goodbye hurt so much more, because it wasn't just the man she loved who had left, but the father Lily had never had, the dream she never dared to dream. Meanwhile, in his penthouse, Miguel couldn't sleep either. Mrs. Ann, the 60-year-old housekeeper who understood him better than anyone, watched him with concern. "Miguel, it's been 3 weeks and you haven't had a proper meal. You can't keep going like this." "I'm not hungry, Mrs. Ann." "It's not about hunger. You're missing the family you lost." Miguel lifted his head from the untouched plate. "I didn't lose them. She left me, and she was right. I lied to her for months. I manipulated her without her even knowing. I am exactly the kind of man she thought I was from the beginning." Mrs. Ann sat down across from him like a gentle mother. "You love her more than your own life. You love that little girl like she was your own. Then why are you still sitting here pitying yourself instead of going out there and fighting for them?" "Because Elena begged me not to come near her again. And this time, I'll respect that." "Oh, Miguel, how can someone be so brilliant in business and so foolish in love?" That night, Miguel lay awake, staring at the dark ceiling. Elena's eyes haunted him, disappointed, broken, and Anne's words echoed in his mind. Love isn't control, it's presence. The next morning, Miguel went to the neighborhood where Elena lived, not to see her, but for something else. He walked into the small corner store owned by Mr. Harris, a friend of Elena's father. "I need a job," Miguel said, without pretense. Mr. Harris looked him up and down. "You're the tech guy, right? What do you want to do here?" "Anything. Stock shelves, clean, unload deliveries. I don't need a salary. I just need to relearn how to live like a regular person." "There are no bosses here," the old man replied. "Only honest work." And so Miguel started over. Each evening, after wrapping up at Medbridge, he changed into jeans and a plain t-shirt and walked to the corner store. He lifted boxes, mopped floors, cleaned glass doors, and listened to customers tell stories. At first, neighbors looked at him like a curiosity, but gradually they warmed up. An elderly woman brought him pastries. A little kid handed him a crumpled drawing. Mr. Miguel, the store guy. 3 weeks later, a group of locals formed an emergency help fund, Miguel's idea, but he contributed just like everyone else. When someone tried to praise him, he said, "I don't want to be a benefactor. I want to be a neighbor." The one person he hadn't seen was Elena, but Lily had. One afternoon, she came home early from school and saw Miguel carrying a crate of milk into the store. He noticed her, smiled, and waved. Lily didn't run over. She just stood there quietly. Then she smiled back, A small, short smile, but genuine. And for Miguel, that moment alone was enough to keep going. One Saturday morning, Elena woke up with a dull headache. She blamed it on sleep deprivation. She'd tossed and turned all night, stressed and anxious. For weeks, she had pushed herself to make up for lost work, but her body was starting to fight back. That evening, after finishing a night shift at the nursing home, she returned home in the cold rain. As she stepped inside, she noticed an envelope taped to the bottom of the door. Inside was a stack of cash, just enough to cover the income she had missed, along with a handwritten note. "Elena, this isn't a gift. It's an emergency loan from the Community Support Fund. No interest, no charity, just neighbors helping neighbors. If you want to know more, ask Mrs. Marta." A neighbor who cares. Elena clutched the note, hands trembling in surprise. Without hesitation, she ran to Mrs. Marta's house, knocking through the drizzle. "Is this community fund real?" "You think I wrote that note?" Mrs. Marta chuckled. "The fund was Miguel's idea, but it doesn't carry his name. He contributes just like everyone else." "And who put my name on the recipient list?" "I did," she replied calmly. "I've seen how hard you work, how Lily has grown quieter day by day, and I've seen Miguel quietly change." Elena choked up. It wasn't about the money, it was the humility. She had demanded respect, and for the first time, she received it, the right way. That night, for the first time in months, Elena couldn't sleep, not because she was tired, but because she was thinking about Miguel without anger. In the 6 months they had been together, he had been kind, respectful, and genuinely caring. The mistake hadn't been in his intentions, but in the way he expressed them. The next morning was Saturday. Elena woke up early, brushed her hair carefully, and chose her favorite dress, one she hadn't worn in a long time. She said to Lily, "Today, you and I have something important to do." "Where are we going, Mom?" "To find someone we both miss very much." They arrived at Mr. Harris's grocery store at 2 in the afternoon. Miguel was unloading boxes in the back, his shirt soaked in sweat, his hands dusty. "Excuse me." Elena stood at the doorway. "Can I speak to the new employee?" Miguel turned around, nearly dropping the box in his hands. In front of him stood Elena, just as beautiful as ever, holding Lily's hand tightly. "Elena?" "I came to propose a partnership," she said, offering a small smile. "What kind of partnership?" "My home needs some reorganizing, and I need a partner who understands the value of honest work." Miguel wiped his hands on his apron and stepped closer. "What kind of partnership exactly?" "The kind built between two people who respect each other, work together, and love each other, with no conditions, no secrets." "Miguel!" Lily shouted, running into his arms. He picked her up, feeling like he could finally breathe after holding it in for so long. "I missed you so much, kiddo." "I missed you too. Mommy cries at night, but says it's just because she's tired, but I know it's because she misses you." Miguel looked at Elena over Lily's tiny shoulder. "You cry every night?" "Every day," Elena admitted, "because I realized I was wrong. I took it out on the only person who ever truly loved me, just because you weren't perfect from the start." "No, I was the one who messed up." "We both did," she interrupted. "You tried to love me the way you thought was right, and I blamed you for not doing it my way." Miguel set Lily down and reached for Elena's hands. "If you give me one more chance, I promise, we'll build everything from the heart. No secrets, no control, just the three of us, together." "There's one condition," Elena said. "Anything." "No expensive rings, no fancy wedding. If you propose, do it right here in this neighborhood with the people who truly know us." Miguel smiled, never letting go of her hand, and dropped to one dusty knee right there in the store. "Elena Rivera, will you marry me? I don't have a ring. I don't have a big speech. Just love, honest work, and a promise that we'll build our future together. As equals." "Yes," Lily shouted before Elena could even respond. "Mom said yes." Elena laughed, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Yes, Miguel, I want to be your wife." Mr. Harris came out from behind the counter clapping. Neighbors gathered quickly, smiling and hugging. Someone yelled, "Store's closed today. We're celebrating." Tío Miguel pulled Elena and Lily into his arms, knowing he had finally learned how to love the right way, with dusty hands, a clear heart, and the courage to be small for the sake of love. 6 months later, they held a simple wedding at the neighborhood church, surrounded by familiar neighbors. Elena wore her mother's wedding dress. Miguel wore a plain suit he had bought himself with his grocery store wages. When the priest asked, "Does anyone object?" Lily raised her hand. "I have something to say. I finally have a complete family." The whole church burst into laughter, including the bride and groom. 3 years later, the Cole Rivera family was living a simple but fulfilled life. Elena was 6 months pregnant with their second child, glowing more than ever. Her work at MedBridge had become a model for many other companies. The community development program she led had helped hundreds of women find stable jobs and regain their voices. In the small kitchen, the smell of arepas and eggs filled the air. Lily and Miguel were cooking together. The girl was now 11, smart, confident, and thriving at school. "Mom," Lily called out as Elena walked in. "Dad Miguel taught me to divide the arepas into 4 equal parts. Each part is a quarter." Elena kissed her daughter's forehead, then kissed her husband on the lips. "How are my 2 little geniuses this morning?" "Planning a surprise for a very pregnant lady," Miguel whispered, gently rubbing her belly. "The baby kicked a lot last night," Elena laughed. "Probably going to be a great soccer player like Grandpa Thomas." The 3 often talked to the baby about her late father. If the child was a boy, they planned to name him Thomas, as Miguel had suggested. Their new home was just 3 blocks from where Elena had grown up. Miguel had sold his luxury penthouse and used the money to establish a scholarship fund for underprivileged students. "Dad Miguel," Lily said during breakfast, "yesterday, Ms. Marcella said you could come to school and talk to us about business." "Would you like me to come?" "Yes, but don't talk about MedBridge. Tell us the story about working with Mr. Harris. I like that one more." Miguel and Elena exchanged smiles. Mr. Harris had passed away the previous year, but he had left the store to Miguel, who now used it as a vocational training center for neighborhood youth. "Why do you like that story more?" Elena asked. "Because that's when Dad really became part of our family." After breakfast, Elena headed to her office at MedBridge, now the coordination hub for all social programs. Miguel often accompanied her, having restructured his role to spend more time with the family. "Ms. Elena," said Jennifer, her assistant, "the results from the Single Mothers program are in. Very impressive." In 3 years, they had helped 500 struggling women secure sustainable employment. "You know what the best part is?" Elena told Miguel over lunch. "Each woman succeeded through her own abilities. All we did was open the door. I learned that from the most incredible woman I've ever known. She taught me that dignity isn't something you give. It's something you fight for." That afternoon, like every Friday, the 3 of them visited Thomas Rivera's grave, a tradition that had started the day Miguel proposed to Elena, asking her late father for his blessing, even if it came late. "Hi, Grandpa Thomas," Lily said, laying down a bouquet. "I have good news. The baby's almost here. Mom says you'd be really proud." Miguel knelt by the gravestone. "I just want to say, Elena is doing amazing. She's strong, successful, and happy, and Lily is the smartest kid in the world. I hope you're proud of the family your daughter has built." Elena quietly wiped away a tear. Even after 3 years, The way Miguel honored her father still moved her deeply. That night, after Lily had gone to sleep, the couple sat on the balcony, looking out over the neighborhood lights. "Do you regret anything?" Elena asked, leaning against her husband's chest. "Only one thing, not learning how to love you the right way sooner." "And me? Can you forgive me for being so stubborn?" "There's nothing to forgive. You taught me what respect really means. Without that lesson, we wouldn't have today." The baby kicked hard. "Someone agrees with us," Elena laughed. "I'll go get you some milk." "No," she pulled his hand back. "Now you know. You don't have to do everything. Just sit here a little longer." Miguel stayed beside her, gazing at the woman he loved in a moment of pure peace. "Mrs. Ann said I look younger now." "That's what real love does. It makes us young again." "She's wise, just like the woman who once told me, the most precious things in life can't be bought. They have to be built by hand." Elena closed her eyes and smiled. She knew she had finally found where she belonged. "Do you remember the day we met?" "How could I forget? It was the day your daughter, with 3 little words, saved my life. At that time, I thought you were our guardian angel." Miguel kissed her hair gently. "No, it was you and Lily who were my angels." Elena felt a soft contraction. She smiled. "Looks like the baby wants to hear the story of how we fell in love." "That's a good one," Miguel said. "It starts with a brave little girl who asked a stranger for help, then 2 hearts learning to love with respect." "And ends with a family built on kindness and honest work," Elena added. "And they lived happily ever after," they whispered together.